everybody, welcome back. Taking a look at Star Wars Revenge of the Sith Ultimate Collector's Edition. This is the 4K Blu-ray digital code combo pack, and it's been a while since I've watched the 4K. I watched it when this came out, the 4K release that is, and I probably watched it again since then. It's hard to remember, but I plucked this off the shelf because I went to the theater to see Revenge of the Sith for its 20th year anniversary. So it's been 20 years somehow since I saw this in the theater. I would have been early to mid-20s. Was it 2025? Yeah, something like that. And geez, that's really hard to... Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 20 years, 2005, it's 2025. So, even though I had this movie on the shelf, and I've seen it many times, I was like, it's... I guess what's every 20 years or so, this is going to be in the theater. So, maybe when I'm in my mid-60s, I'll be catching the 40th year anniversary. Who knows? But, yeah, so I figured I'd talk about the movie and use the 4K disc here as something to flip around and tap and what have you. So, discover the true power of the dark side. Clone Wars rage across the galaxy. The sinister Sith Lord seizes control of the Republic and corrupts Anakin Skywalker to be his dark apprentice, Darth Vader. This kind of has an opening crawl feel to it. Obi-Wan Kenobi must confront his fallen friend in an epic lightsaber duel, presented in thrilling 4K Ultra HD. Wow, okay. I guess that's the movie. The epic lightsaber duel is a good portion of the movie. It's a very long duel. And this is PG-13, and I don't know what the rating is in Canada. I must have bought this when I was in the States. It doesn't have the Canadian rating anywhere. Yeah, so 2020 this came out. So this came out 5 years ago on 4K. Yeah, so I would have watched it at least twice since then. Once when I first purchased it, and probably a couple years ago, I'm guessing. Yeah, so this comes with the 4K disc, the Blu-ray, and then a third Blu-ray with extras. I haven't actually watched any of these. There's a making of documentary. Well, that's not bad. Cast and crew interviews, some extended and deleted scenes. I should probably check this out. I just rarely ever take a look at extras, and just never get around to it. And this has the Dolby Atmos for the 4K, and it looks like the Blu-ray just has the 7.1 DTS for audio. And let's open it up. So I have the 4K disc here, and Anakin with his yellow tinted eyes here, and there's the Blu-ray. Yeah, so these discs are stacked. I don't really know how I feel about that. Well, I do know. I don't feel great about it. And there's the bonus disc. And Though in this case, I guess the Blu-rays being stacked, that's not that big of a deal. Blu-rays tend to be pretty scratch resistant. 4K is not so much. So the 4K has its own. And then we have the two Blu-rays over here. And there was a digicode in here. I must have taken it out. Or maybe I bought this used. I don't even remember. So yeah, so I went and I saw this in the theater. It was pretty busy. I wasn't surprised necessarily. I did see online that it made the most money for a re-release or something along those lines. It made more than people were expecting, I guess. I don't know. People were going to the theater to see it, and I would say the theater was probably at least half full. At least saw the prime seats in like the middle and the middle back. There was no one like in the very first rows or anything like that. And I was a little apprehensive about seeing this in the theater just due to the environment. Even though I've seen this movie multiple times, that doesn't mean I'm going to the theater to hear people comment during the movie, and I don't need people, blurting out meme lines and what have you. That's of no interest to me. But again, I weighed the 20-year aspect, and I was like, well, if I don't go now, then I'll be an actual old man when the next 20 years roll around. So I made the effort, and I'm glad I did. For the most part, the theater was pretty respectful. Not like some of those recent Minecraft showings that I've been reading about, which just seems not a good time, at least for me. And the only disruption is that in the row I was sitting in, there was a very young girl with her mom and dad, and I think another sibling. She was probably between like 5 and 7. Seemed a little young for Revenge of the Sith, and she was very upset during it started when Anakin chokes Padme. Things were getting pretty intense there, and so after Anakin chokes his pregnant wife, well, not wife yet, but pregnant girlfriend, of course we know what happens next. There's a 20-minute duel. But then when Anakin overestimated his power and didn't heed Obi-Wan's warning about the high ground, when he gets his limbs lopped off and crawls on the embankment, screaming, "I hate you," while he becomes engulfed in flames, it was pretty intense for this young girl. And she started crying, and which makes sense. It's a surprisingly graphic scene, at least compared to everything that you've seen in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, if you have the misfortune of watching that one. And I was expecting mom or dad to pick her up and take her out of the theater or something, but they didn't, and she just kept crying, and I'm not upset with the young girl crying. I mean, again, she just saw a hero turn villain and get slaughtered on screen. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say mom and dad have probably seen the movie before, or at least dad, and dude, get your daughter out of there. Pick her up, rub her back or something. Walk her out of the theater. If I hadn't seen the movie, I probably would have been a little more irritated because it's a pretty emotional scene, and then she does quiet down a little bit. But then, shortly after, you have the scene where the Emperor is coming with the files with the Emperor, but he's like, give me a medical bay or whatever it was, but you see Anakin again, all charred and not looking so great, and again she started crying again. So maybe it was less the emotional trauma of a friend having to, delimb someone who was a brother to him, and more just the charred corpse of a person on this lava embankment. It maybe wouldn't have mattered who it was, but she probably didn't sleep well that night. So besides that, it was good to see in the theater. Out of the prequel trilogy, there's kind of a discourse online with people reevaluating those movies, and I don't really understand it, because well, The Phantom Menace is watchable, but I remember when I first saw it, I had a lot of hope for The Phantom Menace, and I waited 5 hours in line for a ticket, and then I got a ticket for the midnight showing. It was an event. I mean, all the nerds were there. It was basically like a costume party for the midnight showing, and people were waving their lightsabers around. There was like a guy dressed as, well, I think every Star Wars hero you can think of was in line, and the movie started, of course, and there was very little hooting and hollering. I even remember back then it was just more of a what exactly are we watching here, and then again I got out of the movie. It was like 2 a.m, and they had the local news there interviewing people, and I left the theater really disappointed. I had a really a very quiet. I was by myself, but like of course to be quiet, but it just seemed very contemplative drive home. Where, geez, is it just my expectations? Was that a bad movie? And no, it couldn't have been that bad of a movie, right? And then of course Attack of the Clones comes out, and you realize, oh no, okay, no, this isn't good. This is just bad. So I had very little faith in Revenge of the Sith, especially after Attack of the Clones. I don't even think they bothered with. I remember Phantom Menace coming back in the theater for a little bit, right? I'm pretty sure I didn't bother going to see that in the theater for its re-release. I may be making that up entirely. I really don't remember. I feel like I saw something about that being in theaters again, and I don't think Attack of the Clones even got a re-release in theaters, because why? I mean, if there are Attack of the Clones fans out there, I mean, I haven't met any personally. So when Revenge of the Sith, I don't know, man. I mean, I had to put myself through this, and I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, even watching it today, and there's still some clunky aspects about it, but there's just so many big emotions in this movie with, forbidden relationships and secret pregnancies and brother against brother. So when you have, broad stroke emotions like that, with especially characters you spend some time with, you really have to really go out of your way to fumble. So fortunately, that doesn't happen in this case. And yeah, so I remember leaving Revenge of the Sith and thinking, hey, at least the landing was, for the most part, they stuck the landing. And over time, I've come back to watch this movie, and yeah, there were some parts that are pretty hokey, but it's Star Wars, so nothing wrong with that. So I was glad I went to the theater and see it again, and for the young girl that was really distraught, maybe her dad will have her sit down and watch 4, 5, and 6, and she can see Darth Vader's redemption, right? So, okay. Thanks for watching.